Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all my Summon Skull Archfiend Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile for post Fists of the Gadgets. Now this is probably one of the most random deck profiles that I have done for quite some time. I've never seen some all over the place support for an archetype before. I got a real, DDD vibe from the Summon Skull deck just because we have 4 different types of summoning methods for this lone monster in this deck, being a Summon Skull, one of Yugi's old ace monsters. It definitely looks like a fun kind of take on the deck, having all these different forms to summon out. So it definitely did have a lot of, interesting combos that I went through to try and make the most of summoning out all the different forms of Summon Skull we have in this deck. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile, and I'll show you all just what I mean. So for the monsters, our main monster in the deck being Summon Skull. This was Yugi's, I would almost say, one of his more well-known monsters for sure, aside from Dark Magician Girl, you name it. It's a true powerhouse, 2500 attack, normal level 6 monster, and it's not a effect monster, but it does also specify that this card's always treated as an Archfiend card on the text as well. So good to remember with all the other different Archfiend cards we run in the deck as well, just to help assist with Summon Skull. Now, the biggest thing that I tried to go for with the deck is the fact that you have all the different summoning methods in the deck to get out, including the ones in the extra deck and also the ritual monster. I wanted to focus on just all the different ways you could get out the monsters because they are quite generic for most of them. So that's the biggest play to go off of, but having Summon Skull be our main focus also just helps because he meets the requirements for a good amount of the cards to summon out also. For some of the other Archfiend support, I run 3 Archfiend Heiress. If this card is sent to the graveyard because of a card effect or being destroyed by battle, you can add 1 Archfiend card from your deck to your hand except Archfiend Heiress, and you can only use this effect of Archfiend Heiress once per turn. It just really does help for the fact that this card can be destroyed by battle or card effect and just sent to the graveyard. It doesn't have to be destroyed, just sent to the graveyard to get the search effect. So you can even get your main card, since it is an Archfiend card now, or any of the other Archfiend cards that may help for some of your plays as well, depending on the one you wanted to go for. But I run also just some other cards to help set up this card in the graveyard quicker. So very important to remember that as well for this. But I like it at the 3, since searching out the cards to go for our different summoning methods are the main focus as well. And I also play 2 Archfiend Giant. If this face-up card in the field would be destroyed by a card effect, you can pay 500 life points instead. This effect can only be used once while this card is face-up on the field. If this card is destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Archfiend monster from your hand. So opening up the Summon Skull in your hand is just another added bonus with this, just giving you that special summon onto the field. Plus, having Archfiend Giant also be a level 6 monster means that you can use it and Summon Skull to overlay into your Exceed monster for the deck, being Archfiend's Ascent. So one of the main ways to get that summon play out for the deck. And I also have the 1 Archfiend Cavalry. I was debating how many of this I wanted to run in the deck. If this card on the field is destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 Archfiend monster in your graveyard except Archfiend Cavalry. Special summon that target. It cannot attack this turn. Just more, graveyard plays to go off of for a lot of your monsters. The main one, obviously, since it is the main focus of the deck, being Summon Skull, but having Archfiend Cavalry just give us options to summon them back out to the field to use. I like it in the deck for that play. One thing I was, just running back and forth of what I wanted to play was Tragodia, being another Fiend monster, an easy special summon from the hand, and the fact that with our other level 6 monsters that we run, making it able to adjust its level to them can help more with the Exceed plays also, since the level 6 monsters on the field probably were some of the more problematic summoning methods, along with the Synchro, and then the easiest one being the Fusion play, but also just having this card be a dark requirement for the Fusion play definitely does help, but also being able to adjust this card for, the level 4, if you have a level 4 in the graveyard for your Archfiend's Call, definitely does come in handy also. So I was going back and forth between how many of each number I wanted to run, but you can kind of mix and match and see how you see for yourself what you want the best combo number to be for these cards in the deck. You can go more Cavalry for a more, special summon option, but Tragodia, like I said, is great when you can get it out for the adjustment or just, the powerhouse on the field that can help for all your different plays. And I also run one Tour Guide from the Underworld. This card can special out your Archfiend Eris, and then with the Exceed play, just gives you more extra deck options if you don't go for the Exceed play. You also have a Link summon option available to you, so you can get your arrows out. One of my favorite ones to go for being Master King Archfiend, just giving you more arrows for the different special summon options for your summon skulls, since you want the Link arrows to get out as many of the extra deck monsters as you can. But I also just have one Exceed option in the extra deck, just in the case you do want to go for the Exceed play, because the Exceed play does help for just being able to take care of some of your opponent's cards also. And then for the non-Archfiend cards, I relied on a few other cards. Like I said, the Summon Skull extra deck monsters are pretty generic, so relying on them. For those special summons, I run 2 Destiny Hero Malicious. If you can get this card set up in the graveyard, it just makes for an easy special summon of the second one onto the field, being another level 6 monster for the easy overlay, but it is also a dark monster, just like I specified with Tragodia, so you can then use it for a fusion play, or even just for the tribute of one of your other cards in the deck, whether it's Summon Skull or your Archfiend Giant as well. And then for the tuners, I tried to think of the best tuner to match up with some of the cards. I run 2 Plague Spreader Zombie. This card mostly just works with the other monsters I'm running, which we'll get to in just a second. Just for the fact that I found the most difficult thing being the fact that Summon Skull is level 6, and the Synchro is also level 6, so that it's almost like they didn't intend for Summon Skull to be the card to use to Synchro summon into the Synchro monster. But the other cards I'm running next, Plague Spreader Zombie, just being able to go to the graveyard quite easily with them is the best way to then use cards in your hand, special summon it to the field, and then have your level 6 synchro play for your Archfiend's Call. But we also have some other synchros in the extra deck to work with the level 6 monsters we run in the deck, just in case you do want to go for a level 8, or that's the only other play you can go for if you don't have the level 4s. And then the ones I were speaking of were Dark Grepher and Armageddon Knight. Armageddon Knight able to also work with Eris quite well, and then also mostly just being able to set up the Plague Spreader Zombie. Dark Grepher can also help with Destiny Hero Malicious for that setup, giving you another special summon on the field, and then your Link plays. But having these 2 level 4s is really a big help just for the graveyard plays to go for, but also just like I said, the Synchro play, I'm relying on these a lot since it is a level 6 Synchro. And then to finish off the monsters, I'm running 2 of the Archfiend's Awakening. Now with this one, you can ritual summon this card with Contract with the Abyss, and this card's name becomes Summon Skull on the field, but is still treated as an Archfiend card. It cannot be destroyed by battle except by battle with a ritual monster, and it cannot be destroyed by monster effects except those of ritual monsters. If this card is ritual summoned, you control is sent to the graveyard by opponent's card. You can special summon 1 Summon Skull from your hand, deck, or graveyard. So it's a trend that shares with all the Archfiend extra deck monsters along with the ritual monster. True, problem for your opponent to get over if they don't have a ritual as well. But just giving you another special summon option for Summon Skull gives you more resources to work with once you get this card out as well. Consider bumping it up to 3. If I were, I would probably take out the 1 Cavalry that I am running, sticking to the Tragodias, for a 3rd copy of this, and then we'll get to the ritual spell that I most like to use for this card. It says you can use Contract with the Abyss, but I am just a much bigger fan of another ritual spell, but we'll show that when we get to the spells themselves. And speaking of spells, that's it for the monsters. Moving on to them, for some of the Archfiend field spells, I'm running 2 Archfiend Palabyrinth. All Fiend-type monsters you control gain 500 attack. You can target 1 Archfiend monster you control, banish 1 other Fiend monster you control, and if you do special summon from your hand, deck, or graveyard 1 Archfiend monster with the same level as the targeted monster, you can only use this effect of Archfiend Palabyrinth once per turn. But this is another great way to quickly get out your level 6 Archfiend monsters we run in the deck, so you have the fast resources to summon them out, just having another Archfiend on the field to make use of. Another one is 1 Pandemonium. This one is just another easy search for some of the other Archfiend cards as well. And I run the 1 Fusion Recycling Plant, so we have the option to search out Polymerization much more quickly, since it's our fusion option to go into Archfiend's Manifestation for that play, and also just being able to recycle your fusion cards as well. We run a good different number of field spells in the deck, so I also run the 1 Terraforming, so we can search out whatever we need for the plays, and depending on what they are, and depending on the play you want to go for, whether it's more of the Exceed variant or the Fusion variant or just the Recycle play, you have the options for all of them in the deck. And then also I run 3 Allure of Darkness, just being a draw cycle engine that gets you quickly through some of the other cards. Or if you have some cards that are just in your hand and not doing much, let's say you have a Dead Malicious, or let's say you open up the 2 in your hand, and it'd just be much faster to draw through some of the cards and get some better ones. I like the 3 Allure for that option. And I also run the 2 Summoner Art. This is just being able to add a level 5 or higher normal monster, being obviously the Summon Skull that we run in the deck. So you can get it into your hand quicker, not having to draw it. And then once it's set up in the graveyard, it can be special summoned back to the field with all your other Archfiend cards we have that we, obviously use Summon Skull to summon out. And I also run 2 Preparation of Rites. This is just another easy search for your Archfiend Ritual monster that we run in the deck, so you can grab it to the hand much, much quicker as well. If the Ritual spell is in your graveyard, it's just an added bonus to add it back. And speaking of the Ritual spell we talked about long enough, I'm running 2 Advanced Ritual Arts. You choose one Ritual monster in your hand and then send normal monster from your deck to the graveyard whose total levels are equal to that Ritual monster, then Ritual summon one of that Ritual monster from your hand. So obviously the fact that we can use Summon Skull in the deck to summon out this card without having to rely on cards in your hand is my big reason why I prefer Advanced Ritual Art over the Abyss, Contract with the Abyss, since the card doesn't really, help as much. It's more of a generic one, so it can't be searched as easily with, pre-preparation of rites. I just really like Advanced Ritual Art, because then it can also set up Summon Skull in our graveyard and then rely on that to summon the Summon Skull we sent back to the field when it's destroyed. And I also run the 2 Polymerization, since I'm running 2 of the Fusion, just to have these resources available to us. The Fusion Recycling Plant, recycles the monsters, but just having 2 Polymerization to go into as well, since I definitely do think the Fusion is one of the easiest level 6 to get out onto the field. So very, very helpful when I can open up the Polymerization and have a good amount of not all of the monsters being able to summon out the Archfiend's manifestation to the field. And then for a few one-ofs of the spells, I run 1 Monster Reborn, 1 Reinforcements of the Army, and 1 Foolish Burial. Great graveyard setup, whether it be for Archfiend Eris or your Malicious. The Reinforcements is for the Dark Grepher or the Armageddon Knight, and Monster Reborn pretty much, just used for getting Summon Skull back onto the field to use for your summons. And then the only trap I'm running, I was, testing it out, and I run 1 Archfiend's Roar, just another special summon option. It gives you the destruction power for your Archfiend cards also, which is why I wanted to try it out. If you're not a fan of any of the traps in the deck, this can be another potential spot to put in the 3rd Archfiend's Awakening if you wanted to save it for those, options also. And that is it for the main deck. When I move on to the extra deck, I run 2 Archfiend's Ascent, going through all the extra deck monsters. It needs 2 level 6 monsters to make it. So like I said, it's pretty generic, and this card's name becomes Summon Skull while on the field, but it's still treated as an Archfiend card. And if Summon Skull you control will be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can detach 1 Exceed material from this card instead. And if the Exceed summon card you control is sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card, you can special summon 1 Summon Skull from your hand, deck, or graveyard. So more special summon options, just like the Ritual, but also being able to protect your cards with the Exceed detached gives you the Summon Skull in the graveyard as well, but also just having the option to protect your Synchro, Fusion, or Ritual, since they're also counted as Summon Skull, is a big help, and you're going to see that trend with all the other ones we run in the deck also. For additional Exceeds, I run 1 Phantom Knight's Breaksword and 1 Time Thief Redoer for the level 4 and the level 3 options, like with Tour Guide. This destruction play definitely does come in handy, and then just having Time Thief Redoer for its own effect is a big help as well. And then for the Synchros, I run 2 Archfiend's Call. It needs 1 tuner, 1 or more non-tuner to make it. Like I said, this is the biggest one I was confused about with the deck, why it was a level 6. I know they were trying to do it, so it does help. The fact that it is a level 6, I can use it for the Exceed play as easily by overlaying it. But with it, this card's name becomes Summon Skull on the field, but is still treated as an Archfiend card. Your opponent cannot target any Summon Skull you control with card effects. And if this card is Synchro summoned, a card you control is sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card, you can special summon 1 Summon Skull from your hand, deck, or graveyard. So more special summon options. I would say more of the generic one as well, but with some of our spells we run in the deck, just being able to obviously bump up the stats of our Summon Skull Archfiend monsters on the field, you can hit some pretty high numbers and get over a good amount of your opponent's cards. And then for the level 8 option, I just run the 1 Borreload Savage Dragon, just a good and easy level 8 to run, especially with all the links we run, which we'll get to in just a second as well. And I also run 2 Archfiend's Manifestation, with this one, this card's name becomes Summon Skull while on the field, but it's still treated as an Archfiend card, and all Summon Skull you control gain 500 attack, and if this fusion summon card you control is sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card, you can special summon Skull from your hand, deck, or graveyard. Same mechanic as all the other different Archfiend cards, but the boost is really helpful when you have this out on the field with your Archfiend Palabyrinth as well, hitting some over 3,500. Like I said, that is a number that you can get over some of the Borreloads with. You can easily protect your other Summon Skulls with the other effects. They all run really well together. You just want to make sure you have your link set up so you can have multiples on the field. With the links, I run one Master King Archfiend. Definitely was made for the Archfiend deck, so a great one to go into, having great arrows, just needing the Fiend monsters to make it. So would definitely be one of the first targets I get out for the deck. I also run two Wee Witch's Apprentice since we're not running all Fiends. That's why I'm running two of this card instead of two Master King Archfiend. Just having the recycle option with Wee Witch as well is a big help for sure. And I also run one Nightmare Cerberus, one Nightmare Phoenix, and one Borreload Dragon for a little more generic link power, but also having Nightmare Phoenix and Nightmare Cerberus be Fiend monsters helps if I need to use them to go into Master King Archfiend as well. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.